Hi, everybody. You might be wondering what all the fuss is about. Well, let me tell you. I've decided not to press charges against a homeless lady for injuring me, and by so doing, I'm actually upholding the royal principle in the United States of America, and I'm keeping it alive in my own way. The coolest thing about being a monarchist is that I don't actually have to care about what the popularity thinks, because monarchy does not compete in popularity contests. So, a homeless lady runs over my foot outside with her stroller grocery thing when I wouldn't give her a cigarette, and she causes other injuries too. I have her name. I can put her away if I want to. I flirted with the idea of doing so. To press charges or not to press charges, that was the question. The thing is that I don't want it to be like me expiating my anger and upon someone who would otherwise not be able to withstand whatever the court could do to her, because they could put her away. And what does that help her? It doesn't help her with mental health. It doesn't help her acclimate or with reacclimation to society. And I can only imagine the responses that she's gotten from other people in her life that have conditioned her to respond like that as a first response to being declined. What indignities has she suffered that she just went past that point and said, nope, enough with that shit. Running over this guy's foot is much more just than the outcome I'm going to get from anyone else. Maybe she's actually not mentally ill. Maybe she's perfectly sane and just responding to a society that's absolutely abhorrent insofar as how it treats people like her, and responding normally to extraordinary situations and an unjust society. Or maybe she's just poor, in a circumstance and society which goes out of its way to damage the lives of the poor and responding with total sanity, all things considered. And if so, aren't we, therefore, as a society, also tacitly responsible? If we refuse to treat the homeless with more dignity, or a fair opportunity to live, with proportionary understanding as to their situation, which we often outright make more difficult without a second thought to them or to the damage that we do to them, aren't we partly to blame for that? Maybe giving them a second chance that we don't otherwise give them would do more good than activating the criminal justice system. That's what the monarchical and the only true sovereign principle would have me do. Because it seems to me that we deny them any opportunity for upward mobility, and it seems to me like we say no to them quite a bit, give them zero resources to get out of their situation, and then when they finally have enough, and they reach their breaking point and they act out, we throw the book at them, expecting them to abide by the same standards as everyone else, even though we've given them no means to do that, and with that we put them away. And society does so because they're inconvenient, not because putting them away is just. Maybe if somebody gave her a second chance, maybe, just maybe, it would actually do some good for her, and for society at large, rather than just putting her away because it's inconvenient. I've been reading a lot of royalist philosophy on this, and this is where I've landed. I was, in the moment, infuriated that she did that to me, as any person who, had that happen to them would be. And I thought about pressing charges, and I thought it might be best just for a moment. But it also falls in the back of something else, which I had a similar experience with someone else. So different, though, in which I decided in that instance almost intrinsically not to press charges. And so I ran this situation by the same barometer and litmus test, and ethically and morally, I can't actually make the case that I can press charges unless I'd be a hypocrite. I am imperfect, but I'm the last bastion of chivalry that there is. Clemency is said to be a divine and sovereign virtue. The coronation oath of England for every king and queen says to cause law and justice with mercy and discretion to be executed in all of one's judgments, and this is an oath that every sovereign of England takes. And as a monarchist, and speaking to other monarchists in this regard, if we are going to ask people to embrace monarchy in all of what it stands for, then I ask, ought we not to embrace it ourselves, and hold ourselves to the same standards as would the monarchs that we respect and revere? Therefore, does that oath not bind us as well to the very cause that it upholds? If justice is not tempered with mercy and discretion, then it becomes itself a most inexorable tyrant, and a series of legal mechanisms that are devoid of humanity. Justice must be executed with an eye toward what is best for all involved. If not, it becomes only about an eye for an eye, which is not good rulership, because getting even cannot be the end of justice in all of its machinations, but rather the upholding of a societal good, even in a popularity, in a society where the greatest good is unpopular. The difference herein be revealed of what is between a king and a president, and I land on king every time. The crown must win, in all instances and upon all occasions when conflict arises, even in America, and so long as that decision rests with me, so too shall the case be. That is to say, so long as the decision as to whether or not to initiate or execute justice rests with me, in instances where I am the person upon whom that hinges, I'm going to do the right and royal thing. Upholding that is far more important, especially in America, which, were it not for me and people like me, would not have that royal principle. And as long as I uphold it, the royal principle exists in America. and affects America for its betterment, even if America doesn't want it to. Now, if all of this sounds like an indictment of popular supremacy and a condemnation of justice and divvying out power by popularity contests, then that's because that's exactly what this is. I'm not going to ask the popularity of the angry mob whether or not they believe it's just to burn the witch. I accord with the Crown over the popularity. And the Crown says, in some instances, that clemency is a higher virtue than balancing the scales in the case of a wrong. It says so even in the instance in which I am myself the wronged. To do nothing is often the best course of action. You could argue that history is not made by those who do nothing, but making history is about getting a score and settling scores. And to point, if one is planning to run for a popularity contest for public office, like in an election, at a victory or series thereof and say, hey, look at these successful successes. What victories are they, though? And for whom? Settling scores should not be the end of justice. It's only the end of justice if you're concerned about popularity. But justice should not be concerned with popularity. It should be concerned with what is right. And right, doing right for right's own sake. And the popular thing and the right thing to do are often not the same thing. The Crown must win. And as long as the decision rests with me as the person who can initiate or not initiate the criminal justice system, then I'm going to uphold the royal principle, even in this place that has been founded as the literal antithesis of that principle, in my own way, forcing monarchy upon America. But the Crown wins in this instance, and I've chosen divine and sovereign clemency. Reflecting on royal philosophy and the monarchical principle in all of its divinely ordained significance allows me to superimpose that principle in ways large and small in the United States. And that, my friends, you can take to the bank with the word of a literal prince behind it.